What is the most critical thing that you can do as parents for your children? That's the topic that we're going to address today on Flourish-Meant. I'm your host, Tina Yeager. And today I have a brilliant woman with me with a wonderful new book. Her name is Tricia Thornton. And in addition to being an author, she's a licensed counselor, a registered play therapist, and a certified interpersonal neurobiology clinician. Welcome, Tricia. I am so excited to get into the brain science, the practical tips, and the wonderful things that can happen when you connect the right way with your kids.
Well, thank you for having me today.
Tricia, let's talk about what the most important thing is that you can do for your kids as parents.
So the most important thing we can do is to first take some time to connect with God, then connect with yourself. If we don't attend to those two pieces, then we're going to have an empty cup, an empty bucket. We have to put on the oxygen mask first before we help our children. So the connection has to start first with us and our self-care.
What you're filled with is what you will end up giving. That's super important advice. Why is it important for parents to connect with their children? What is the impact that this has?
I love that question. I would say safety. The emotional safety a child feels when it's not a perfect parent, because there is no perfect parent. So it's not perfection in your presence, but consistency and them feeling that authentic connection with you will immediately give their brain a sense of safety. And that is what will ignite them to go forward, to be resilient, to be confident, to be a child who may have hardships, but they will be able to know how to navigate those hardships. And they may still have lots of loss and trauma and grief, but they will have that circuitry that was built on the base of that connection with their caregiver to go back to be able to face the troubles.
Every parent thinks they're connecting authentically with their children. Can you define what that really means?
It seems like a difficult concept to explain, but I don't think it's really hard when we really think about it. But what happens is we all get tripped by our own stuff and our own triggers, our own past, and that kind of gets in the way of that authentic connection. But authenticity means true. It means that you are actually really there. You don't have to even enjoy the moment. You can be tired and you can be kind of over it, and you can even be mad, and you can feel sad, and you can feel fear. But if you're still present within, because you're present first with God and then within yourself, that will give off that presence and that authenticity to your children. I think we are, but when we really look at it, we're being so pulled in so many directions that we're just not able to really be still in the moment and be there with our children.
There's a difference between owning your emotions and pouring them all out into the space and not apologizing for your behavior, and being realistic with, this is what I'm feeling right now, but still being sensitive to how that impacts other people around you. Can you specify that a little bit with the authenticity? Because sometimes people go overboard with it.
Absolutely. There is a time and a place for us to share. If we are caught in our own stuff and our own triggers and our own big feelings, it may not be always in that moment the time and place to share that with our children. It is by all means important for us to say, ooh, I'm feeling a little bit nervous, or I'm feeling a little bit frustrated right now. And we can model how to manage that to our children. But if they're already triggered themselves, maybe coming in and having every moment be a teaching moment might be a little overkill for them. It might be too much for their system to handle. And I think what happens a lot of times is we try to get in there and try to use every moment or make it a big thing. And we try to, and sometimes we're just trying to survive it and we're just trying to get through the moment. But either way, we're kind of all caught up in our own heads. So we are just not able to really be grounded enough to be actually there and available for our children. This is not easy to do because we all are striving and being pulled in many directions.
So let's talk about the different ages at which you would share a little or a lot and how you would do that, because this is very age specific in the manner that you show up authentically, correct?
Absolutely. I think, like, if there is something scary on the news that you have to share, or something scary or traumatic happened in your area and you're having to explain that to children, I always guide parents, and it doesn't even have to be big. It could just be something very simple as the schedule had to change today or whatever and why it had to change. But I think what happens is we get fearful ourselves and feel a little of that out of control feeling. And when our brain senses that, then our fear responses kick in. And so we might either overshare out of kind of a fight response or a fawn response where we're trying to take care of everybody, or we might freeze, or we might flee. So any of those. But what happens is age-wise, they all need some information. But do they need to know everything? Absolutely not. A 4 or 5-year-old does not need to know every detail of the traumatic event. They don't even have the ability to process it anyway. So you're kind of wasting your energy in trying to explain it. But they do need to hear you're safe and mommy or daddy is here with you. Those are kind of the main messages that you need to communicate, that we are here and you are safe. That is constantly kind of the message you want to communicate, even if you're in the middle of a crisis. And then, even if you have a storm surrounding you, we just had storms come through Nashville again. And even in the hallway, you're safe. Mommy and daddy are here with you. It doesn't mean that nothing bad is going to happen, because we can't control that. But it does mean that you are safe in this, in this particular time. I think that's where parents get tripped up, is we don't know really how much to overshare, because maybe the news is, or the information is coming in so fast. I usually tell people, just take a second, take a few minutes to pause, kind of get a grasp on the information yourself first and then share. But as the children get older, you want big information to be shared by you first, not the friends, not social media, not Yahoo News, not TikTok. It needs to come from you first. So you've got to be a little bit in the know to be able to share. But if being in the know is dysregulating you, then you got to guard your heart, as scripture says for us to guard our hearts. That's what we would have to do. But I think little goes a long way in general of every age. And then tell the children that as they have questions, or as they have thoughts and feelings, or if they hear something, bring it back to you, because you're the anchor. So you don't want their raft to be floating on the ocean without an anchor. You're the anchor that's holding the raft. They're still going to bob up and down, but you're holding the raft.
And I would think too, maybe you can ask your child, what have you heard about this? How do you feel about this? Just to see where they are.
Yeah, great question to ask. Is there anything you've heard that's confusing? Anything that you heard that doesn't make much sense, or you're kind of wondering why? Or then you can name different emotions. Anything that made you scared that you heard? Anything that made you mad that you heard? And definitely see their temperature gauge, so then you can step in accordingly. And also, you're the truth teller. So if something has been misconstrued or exaggerated, you're the base that they need to come to hear the truth. Well, actually, this is actually what happened. But so-and-so told me, right, I don't think they have the accurate information. And as they get into teen years, that's super important. You want to affirm that they are knowledgeable and have information, but you also need to be their guide to bring it back to reality.
And what you share with them has to be to the extent to which it benefits them, not just as cathartic for you, correct?
Correct. And if that's where you're getting tripped up, then you need to seek advice from another adult, a trusted confidant, and have that kind of exchange with that person before you talk to your children. Also, another idea is be in touch with the schools or wherever they are, the daycare or the schools. What's the talk going around? What have you heard in the classroom? What have you heard on the playground, in the lunchroom? So you can then be an informed parent. So when you're about to receive these children home, you kind of know what's happening.
So let's talk about neurobiology and how this impacts a child's neurobiological systems.
Ideally, we are all trying to get to a harmonious middle, and what we call in interpersonal neurology integration. It's not perfection, but we're trying to kind of achieve this balance. Neurologically, you're trying to balance the prefrontal cortex and the emotional center of the brain. I talk about that there's like an invisible staircase that's connecting the upstairs and the downstairs brain, which is, I call it connection. That's where the authentic connection goes. So if you as a parent is an authentically connected place, again, not perfection, you're still going to have big emotions, you're not going to do it always right, but you're self-aware that, oh, wow, I'm feeling a lot of big things. What can I do in this part of my brain to kind of integrate and bring myself back to a harmonious place? Then that cues that child's connection staircase to also get into place. Another way to say it is we all are striving to go down this integrated, harmonious river. We have on one side a bank of chaos and another bank we have rigidity. So what happens is our boat naturally gets pulled to one side or the other, and that's natural. That's how life is. That's how God made our brains. But he made our brains in this beautiful way that we do have the power to be able to get our boat back. It very rarely stays perfectly in the middle. Even if you are in your perfection place of the beach and your children are occupied and you're reading your book and you're so happy and everything is so great, our brains can turn on with very quickly oh, I feel guilty for sitting here. Oh, I should be doing this. Oh, I should be doing this. And the running trail goes. So it's very rare that we feel that, but we do have the power within us to get there.
So let's put this in layman's terms. When you're talking about the prefrontal cortex, that upstairs part is where you make decisions, where you're navigating and organizing and choosing what to do. This is the logical part of your brain that actually is sorting things out. It's diplomatic. Whereas the back part, the downstairs that you're talking about, that is where your emotions and your fight or flight reactions are and all the things that you don't think through so well. So those need to be connected. In children, it's not really connected. So let's talk about that.
In adults, it's often not connected because there's so much interwoven pathways that have developed because of your pre-trauma or pre-life experience. That connection also gets severed or gets damaged, and we have to repair. Another big word that is a real buzzword, I probably every other week I get an email that says, I was told by the school psychologist or school counselor or whoever, my pediatrician, that my daughter needs to work on emotional regulation or my daughter needs to work on executive functioning. Those two words are handled in the upstairs, in the prefrontal cortex. The downstairs brain, you might hear the word amygdala hijack. That's where the limbic region, where this is little almond-shaped piece of our brain that wakes up when we feel these fear responses. In neurobiology development, a child is born with their emotional center developed. But a child is not developed fully of their prefrontal cortex till mid-20s, which is really quite mind-boggling. If you go through traditional school, and then you go to a 4-year or a 2-year, whatever after the schooling time goes, or you start a job, you go all the way through that without your brain fully developed. It's quite an amazing thing when you think about it. Children go through also, I talk about this often, 3 growth spurts in our brains, the prefrontal cortex region where it's growing. It's actually developing new neurons. And that happens at certain stages of development. And so if your child is in a stage of that, then you might experience a lot of push and pull from them, a lot more dysregulation, because it's like a growth spurt in their brain.
I want parents to have more of this. So let's talk about how they can follow you and get a copy of your new book.
First of all, triciathornton.com is my website. They can get everything through there. But another great resource is to follow Tricia Thornton Therapy on Facebook and on Instagram, if you happen to be on social media, because I post videos every Tuesday and Thursday for parents, and I do a lot of this explaining this. And I put it in terms that you will understand and talk about real life experience, and this is what works. I also have articles that I write that are written on my website that you can access. And then my book is available again on my website and on Amazon, or really anywhere books are sold.
I hope that all of you listening were informed and inspired to make powerful, beneficial connections with your kids and with yourself. And of course, I also hope that you will come back for the next episode of Flourish-Meant.